Hello again, it's GinGurGurl, and I'm going to do a walkthrough of the use of the Galactic Map. Now there's a couple ways to get into the Galactic Map. My favorite is simply hitting M on your keyboard. However, you also have this button right here that says just that, Galactic Map. Now I'm going to kind of move this window down for a moment so that you can kind of get an idea as to how the map functions. It is set up on this multi-dimensional grid, which I think is very, very nice, very visually appealing in my opinion, and gives you just the smallest idea of the scale of this actual game. Now, this is one sector. That's it, one sector, and the centralmost area for the most part, sector, at that. The number I've been given, and I could easily be wrong, but the number I've been given was approximately that there are 27 billion or more systems in this game. Now that means as we discover and grow, the game will have plenty of room to expand for players to build their own, space stations, colonies, but also star systems and more or less galaxies. Now, here you see these lines. I'm currently in Menzel 3, which is right here. These lines are indicating the warp gates that are near me and where they go to. Now, these gate systems have been meticulously worked on by the devs, by assisting players. It's very impressive the amount of work that has gone into this because it is not an easy feat to work on a map of this style by any means. And I know it's intimidating to most, but once you start playing it, you get really comfortable with it, and I really couldn't function without it. Now, when you want to travel around other than with these warp gates, you could have a hyperdrive. Now, this ship does not have a hyperdrive, so I am going to be using my little imagination here for one or two things, such as if I wanted to check out a new system, or new to me, these systems have been discovered. You see the names beside them. You can right-click on them. Well, if I can click the right place, there we go. And it pulls up the information about it. Also kind of gives you, centralizes it on your map. And if I had a hyperdrive and hydrogen, which is the fuel source, it would tell me what the cost would be to warp to it, or to jump to it. But seeing as I don't, it also doesn't have this highlightable for me to jump. However, I can always add a bookmark to it. And by saying that, let me pull my little window up. Bookmarks are found here in your there we go, Maps window. You can see I've traveled a little bit, not as much as many of these players, but I've bookmarked some of the locations. Probably used the bookmarks a little more than I should, just for my own sanity's sake. But you can see here, you've got Apollo, Jam 1, places like that, but also you have some of these named systems. Now, the reason these are named as they are, you see it says GinGurGurl, that's me, it's because these are systems that I discovered. I went out there, it was an undiscovered sector. You travel to it, it gets named after you if you're the first player in that sector. And it also gives it a caller ID number, more or less, which is this here, currently a 3-digit PIN, and then the number in which you've discovered. So like this was the 11th system that I had discovered. Now, traveling down this window, there are some other aspects I'll touch on more, some that I'll wait for later. The system search. Maybe I didn't bookmark a certain area, or you're starting out, you don't have any bookmarks, but you know that you need to go to Jam 1 because you're following the storyline. So if you click on Jam 1, or type Jam 1 and then hit search, it pulls up Jam 1. Now you notice by going to Jam 1, I've opened up and you can see even more of these warp gates because I'm closer to them, and you can see all of the nearby established gate systems. Here, again, I don't have the fuel cost to get there because I don't have the hyperdrive, but it would be right here under distance would be the cost. And I could bookmark it for later, or I could jump to it if I had the equipment. Also here in this window, and I'm not going to touch on them in this video, is the stock market search and placing bounties. Both of those are a lot more in depth and need their own attention, so I'm not going to try and confuse you right now with that. Home is kind of a reset button. It takes you back to the whole "you are here" location. See, back to Menzel 3 is kind of the center of our universe again at the moment. And then lastly, if say you are out exploring and you run out of fuel and the system you're in has no usable gas giants to gain more fuel from, you're stuck. There's no intergalactic truck stop or tow truck that's going to come and haul you back to system. Instead, the game has built in a emergency jump button which takes you back to, here, let's click it. There we go. Back to Cirrus Space. So yep, here we are back in Cirrus Space, right outside of Andromeda. And that should pretty well cover it. If you have any questions, as always, leave a comment. I will do my best to answer, or I will, as always, direct any questions that I cannot answer to the wiki, because both the devs and the players have done a wonderful job of answering questions in there and in game. Have a wonderful day playing.